All right, let's jump right into part 11 of our explainer, the New World Order and the ultimate conclusion. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating source that makes a massive argument that the old financial system, the one built on infinite debt, is officially shutting its doors for good and paving the way for a massive global transition. The text we're looking at today suggests a huge macroeconomic shift is happening right under our noses. It's essentially freezing traditional paper wealth while simultaneously driving decentralized assets to heights we've literally never seen before. We're going to look closely at the signs the author points out and explore how the research claims sovereign nations are quietly scooping up digital property as money enters what the author calls its final evolutionary phase. So, let's finish this journey strong. Moving right along into our first major section here, the rise of sovereign wealth and CBDCs. Okay, so our source points out a major move by governments right now, which is attempting to replicate digital technology, but doing it under strict, top-down centralized control. The author defines these central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, as programmable surveillance money. According to the text, this is a system designed by central authorities to track literally every microtransaction you make. It could even potentially set expiration dates on your savings just to force you to spend, and restrict your purchasing power based on your compliance with government mandates. And this sets up a pretty epic clash of two totally different digital futures. On one side, you've got the CBDC model, which the author directly links to centralized control, absolute surveillance, and the ongoing threat of infinite inflation. But then, on the flip side, you have decentralized networks. The research describes these assets as unhackable, mathematically limited in their supply, totally permissionless, and most importantly, owned directly by you, the individual. According to the data we're exploring, as global empire debt hits these crazy historical limits, smart capital is actually quietly flowing right out of the fiat system and into neutral digital property like Bitcoin. The author really captures the magnitude of this shift perfectly, stating that we are witnessing the separation of state and money for the very first time in human history. The text treats decentralized assets as this sort of neutral life raft for capital that's desperately fleeing heavily manipulated or wildly over-leveraged systems. The source argues that anyone who stays trapped in that old paper currency mindset seriously risks being swept away by an economic tsunami. The research suggests that the entire world is rapidly transitioning over to a global digital ledger. So, thinking that traditional banking models are somehow going to universally protect your purchasing power, well, the author says that's just a fundamental misread of modern economics. But look, just knowing an economic shift is coming, that's really only half the battle. The real question is, how do you actually prepare? The text outlines some very specific, decisive actions designed to position investors effectively during this historical transition. We're going to explore the actual rules utilized by financial elites to protect their legacy, so you can understand exactly how to position yourself. Which brings us to our next critical segment, Section 2, the generational wealth shield. What's really fascinating in the data is how the wealthiest families operate today. The source indicates they definitely no longer measure their net worth strictly in paper currency that can be devalued with the click of a button. Instead, the author notes they look toward assets with high utility, zero counterparty risk, and absolute scarcity. The text refers to this as unconfiscatable digital property. It represents a whole new asset class that simply cannot be printed into oblivion by a central bank. So the authors lay out the specific blueprint for building what they call a digital fortress, which acts as a shield against inflation and systemic fragility. It involves things like dollar cost averaging into hard assets, to take the raw emotion out of investing. It means utilizing highly secure cold storage protocols so that you and only you hold the keys. It also covers understanding market psychology to avoid getting completely shaken out by the big players and deploying automated systems for true long-term leverage. Ultimately, the text concludes that the future doesn't belong to the loudest folks in the room. It belongs to the disciplined, patient, and educated investor who recognizes this massive shift early on. By implementing these strategies, the author claims an individual can actually acquire digital sovereignty. You are effectively unplugging yourself from a traditional financial system that the source characterizes as becoming increasingly fragile and prone to extreme overreach. But, as the source rightly reminds us, all this theoretical knowledge, the market charts, the historical context, they mean absolutely nothing if they aren't applied. The true power here lies in taking these blueprints we've extracted from the research and executing them relentlessly in the real world. The tools and the blueprints, they're all laid out clearly right here in the text. And by truly grasping these concepts, you transition from just looking for simple, easy answers to incredibly complex economic problems into becoming a highly educated observer. You're now equipped to fully understand and analyze your exact place in this rapidly evolving monetary landscape. Because at the end of the day, navigating this entirely new digital epoch, well, that ultimate responsibility rests entirely on your shoulders. So, based on everything we've unpacked from our sources today, the big question remains: will you stay anchored to the traditional matrix, or will you guard your keys and claim your digital sovereignty?